I started doing this series on the I Change process because I want to share many of the things I have learned over my lifetime as a health educator and more of late as a hypnotherapist. At this time in my life, I want to leave a legacy. So whatever little piece that you can glean from these little conversations, I thank you for listening, and I trust that you will in some way use it. I have learned the best way to share is to share from the heart. So I have no script for these little conversations, and I just tune in and let the universe come through and move my mouth and share what I have to share. Today is a happy day for many people, and is an unhappy day for many people. One of our classmates lost a very dear person yesterday. A young man of 35 years old passed away. I shan't name individuals because family is not ready to share the news in public. 35 years old. What a loss. And also yesterday, and this I can name because she's my niece, Cindy lost her grandmother. She passed away 3 hours ago, and I had the honor and privilege of meeting this lovely lady this January. And she has been an incredible force in that despite her suffering from cancer, she was one of the most positive people I have met. And also a big deal because Cindy has been studying with me in hypnotherapy for the last 13 years. And I think in her grandmother's lifetime, she actually applied the things she's learned. When, was it a year ago, I think, when grandmother was very ill in the hospital, she went every day and gave her hypnotic sessions for healing. And quite miraculously, grandmother recovered, left the hospital, and had almost a year good life. To the extent that this last January, I was able to meet her at Cindy's reopening of her studio and had the privilege of being in her positive light. And I was told to Cindy went to see her and gave her a session to help her get to the bridge of transition, leaving behind life's baggage and traveling light to join her friends and loved ones on the other side of the bridge. So we look at life in many different aspects. Life happens, life comes, life goes. This morning, as I was preparing for this conversation, I remembered when I was a child in Malaysia, and we didn't have television, we had to sneak over to my aunt's house to watch, and my father forbade us to watch TV at night. I used to watch the series called Ben Casey. I think that was one of the TV series or movies that inspired me to want to be a brain surgeon at that time. I'm still a brain surgeon, I just don't use a scalpel. What spiked my memory was the end of the show. There is a series of symbols.
Man, woman, earth, death, infinity.
I never knew what infinity meant at that time. I understood man, woman, life, death. It just dawned on me that the infinity symbol symbolizes human spirit, who we are and how we relate to people and what we leave behind when we move on to another path of our karma. The body and the spirit and the mind. In health education, we talk so much about teaching somebody something, hoping it will change their attitude, and then hoping beyond hope that they will change their behaviors and adopt a healthier lifestyle, therefore become healthier and hopefully happier. I have learned over so many years of doing this work that being healthy by conventional standards is not good enough. At the end of the day, all the things that trouble us at a spiritual level. If we don't put spirit first in the mind, body, spirit paradigm, the rest will be just putting plaster on drywall. The inside is empty. I spent many years as a professional health educator, stood on many soapboxes, arguing for changes and to hope that people can make changes. You know, the thing is, we spend so much of our time and energy making a lot of money, acquiring a lot of stuff to impress people we don't even like. Sometimes people we don't even know. And then at the end of life, we ask ourselves, what's all this about? What are we worth? What is our life worth? You know, there's no U-Haul behind your hearse. So I thought about it. Yes, we spend so much time chasing after the wrong thing. And we spend so much time acquiring more and more and more data, more and more and more knowledge, more and more whatever, technology, technique, strategy, and selling more and more stuff. At the end of the day, I see many clients who come to my office who would have more money they can possibly spend in this lifetime, but they are so poor in spirit. They feel so empty. They have no friends. And even when they walk in the room, the plants will die. I'm exaggerating. What truly matters in life? A couple small things, and the title of this talk is Small Ideas but Big Changes. So every time I sit in front of you on Sunday mornings, I think about what is one small thing I learned that has made a big difference in my life. You know, you look at a young child, the idea of being a human being. When a baby is born, when he wants to pee, he just pees anytime, anywhere. He is all spirit, he's all being. He has no pre-programmed ideas as to when and how and where to pee. He pees because his body tells him to pee. And then as he grows up, we teach him what not to do. We also program the child to grow up to subscribe to behaviors that are not in his own best interest. We teach him how to be a prostitute to our affections, right? You don't do what mama says, mama's going to frown at you, and it translates to a child's mind, it's mama doesn't love me, and therefore I will be the lonely, homeless person in the street when I grow up. So the child will learn to do whatever it takes to prostitute, and I use the word deliberately, meaning sometimes when a person does something that's against his own free will to get after something he wants. I call that prostitution, to prostitute for affection. And so now the being is being obscured by what being human is about. You go to school, hey, you can't pee where you want to pee. You either pee in your diaper or you go to the party, right? And then when you get a little older, you just can't find a bathroom and pee. It has to say little boys or little girls. All these are lies. Is it true that we can't pee because we're not in the right place? It's because older humans have started implementing rules that may not be in our own best interest. Story in point, my daughter was in elementary school. One little boy went to the bathroom during class time, made a mess, and played with water in the bathroom. Guess what? The school now has a new rule. Nobody can go to the bathroom except during recess. The whole school is being punished. And so I was horrified, and I went to the school board and I say, if my child has a urinary tract infection, I'm going to sue you because the rule you're implementing is cruel and unnecessary just because one boy misbehaved. We have to use our common sense. Point I'm making is as we grow up and in whatever society and environment we find ourselves, we begin to subscribe to rules without thinking, or maybe it's the right thing to do, or maybe we've been coerced to do. So children grow up with new programming. A little child has been told that she's fat and stupid, and she's worthless. She's being told that every day in many different ways. What's the likelihood of that child growing up healthy and happy? Now, the one small idea I grew up with, and today being Mother's Day, I have my mother to thank. When I was a little girl, I wasn't a very pretty little girl. I was very much a tomboy because I had 5 brothers, and my sisters were too far in age. One is 4 years older, one is 4 years younger. They're no fun to play with. So I rather play with the boys. And my mother was convinced that the way I was, no man would want to marry me. Then I didn't think I was anything special because I wasn't pretty. I wasn't particularly smart. I wasn't particularly anything. So one day I sat down and I asked my mom, you see, I have this little mark on my elbow. It's a little mole. And, you know, child, nothing else to do. Everything is a question. So I said, hey, Mom, why do I have this mark on my arm? And I said, I scrubbed it. It's not dirt. It won't come out. It's not very pretty, you know. There's one black spot on my arm. And my mother, who had never been to school because her parents did not believe in educating girls, or at least her father didn't. But I believe my mother was one of the wisest person I've ever known. And she looked at me and she said, oh, that's easy. She said, you know, when little babies are born, they come along this assembly line. So because God wants to make sure that every child that's born is special and perfect. But when God came to you, and I'm going to use the female pronoun, she stopped. And because only a mother can do that, I promise you, she stopped and touched you there on the arm and said, this one is extra special. I still remember that old story, and I thought, wow, how is it possible? But if Mom told me, it's got to be true, right? We all believe our mothers. Mom told me it's got to be true. So I held that in my heart, and I believed that hook, line, and sinker. And that small gesture has contributed in a huge way to make me who I am today. Not to say that it inflated my ego, but I know that, you know, I'm going to be 68 in November. And I know that having lived so many years, that it has worked for me. In very difficult times in my life, and I know all of us, when we come to a crossroad or a difficult turn in our lives, we have to find a compass. We have to turn to something that's bigger and better than who we are. Something that is pure, something that is good, something that you can trust. Simple-minded as I was, and simple-minded as I am today, I still believe I'm fairly simple-minded. I would look to my arm when I come to very difficult times. And I said, if God said I was extra special, then this difficult task must be my special assignment. Because if anyone can solve this problem, it must be me, because I'm extra special. So it helped me navigate through the oceans of fear and through the storms to find something to hang on to and walk through it. Small idea. What we say, and I particularly address mothers. A friend of mine, he's not on this morning, Dr. Ehsan is a pediatrician, and he said, I particularly applaud mothers. I see mothers bring the babies into my clinic, and I know it's so very important. It's important to educate people. It's particularly, he believes, it's particularly important to educate women because they are the first teachers of the next generation. So even though my mother had never been to school, she understood that. And where she pulled out of her hat a story like that, that has kept me going, I have no idea. So small things make big changes. And we don't have to go out and save all the whales all together all at once. Sometimes by making a small shift in our own energies, we can make big influences in the world. In each of your own lives, you have influenced many, many people. As I said today, we have two very illustrious guests, Dr. Diane Ellensworth and Dr. Joe Nosler, my mentors, my colleagues in health education, and they have each in their lifetimes charted unknown territories, done things where no people would dare to go. There's very special women, and I'm so honored they're joining us today. What small changes, what small ideas do each of you have that would make a big change? It's interesting to just kind of reflect on it. Small things that would save our lives. Another story that came to mind right now as I say this was my best $38 I've ever spent in Ohio. When I was a housewife in Kent State and going to grad school at Kent State, one day my young children wanted me to take them ice skating. Skating, ice, or roller was never part of my growing up years. I had no idea how to do that. So I begged a classmate to come along and went to the ice arena at Kent State University. And it was New Year's Eve, and my children said, "Oh, come on, Mom, don't be a chicken, get some skates on and come on the ice." And I thought, well, being in the emergency room on New Year's Eve is not my idea of celebration. So I was very scared. I didn't go on the ice that day, but begged my friend Marian to take the children into the ring. But a week later, I decided I have to learn how to do this. So I saved up, I had $38 to buy a 30-minute lesson with a pro. Mr. Simpson took me onto the ice and I said, "Please don't leave me alone in the center of the ring." And he said, "No, I won't." And so he took me, the first thing he did was he guided me and we stopped right in the middle of the ice arena. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to have to crawl on my hands and knees back to the edge. Then he said, "No, I'm going to teach you a few fundamentals so you're not afraid of the ice." And I said, "Okay." And I said, "Please teach me how to stop. Please teach me how to turn." And in that moment, he said, "Now, when you're on ice, when you want to turn, you turn your head to the direction where you want to go and your body will follow." That was the one thing that stuck in my head. A couple weeks later, I was going to school. It's a 25-minute drive from Hiram to Kent. And I came across down the country road, down the slope, coming down to the major highway. It was a beautiful sunny day. Didn't know it was icy. As I was coming down the hill, my car hit ice and it started to spin. And at the bottom of the hill, there's a big semi-truck coming along. In that split second, I know if my car went all the way down the hill, it'll be a pile of broken pieces underneath the truck. And I yanked my seatbelt, it was engaged. and I heard Mr. Simpson's voice in my head. It said, Kweethai, where you want to go, look in that direction. Your body will follow. So I saw a ditch. And I thought, ditch, underneath the semi, ditch is better choice. So I looked towards the ditch and hoped my car would stop in the ditch, and prayed. And my car did a quick spin and ended up hanging 4 inches before it tipped into the ditch. And my car stopped in the opposite direction. And in that split second, I told myself, start the engine, turn the car around, because if you don't, you will never drive again. I was so scared. Who would have thought that one moment of that $38 lesson I had with Mr. Simpson, I remember $38 because it took me a while to gather $38 in those days. It was meaningful. But that saved my life that day. You never know how the small things you do for yourself, for other people, will make a big difference in our lifetime. I have also been through life where I have lost many family members. A clinical intern at the Cleveland Clinic, and we were given electives of specialty areas to go do our internship. And I deliberately elected not to do the pediatric rotation. Instead, I chose to do palliative care. At that time, I said, I can't do pediatrics. At the Cleveland Clinic at that time is a tertiary facility, meaning that people are very ill before they come to the hospital. In the children's unit, babies die all the time. In fact, babies die every day in the pediatric unit. I was not given the emotional preparation to handle day by day the loss, not just of lives, the loss of opportunities, the loss of dreams. And it was too much to bear. And I said, I can't do that. So I said, maybe I can do palliative care instead and learn how to offer comfort to the dying. It was all very well and noble until one day I had to see a patient. He was a 40-year-old medical doctor with stage 4 liver cancer. Young wife, young children in the room, and I walked in. I was a dietetic intern. My job is to figure out what meals to get the patient. And I walked in and I felt like I was totally in the wrong place. What can I possibly offer this man in the form of a meal that's going to comfort him and his family in that situation? I felt totally useless. And there were many other opportunities like that during that internship, to the extent I realized I want to work with healthy people. And I challenged many situations there until I became you don't want that intern in your rotation because she's a lot of trouble. And I realized it was the wrong fit. I have to walk away and find a way to work with healthy people. And I think that day I remember when I walked away from the clinic, my mentor, Dr. Ellensworth, sat me down at Bob Evans for breakfast one day, and she said to me, Diane, if you remember, you said, this seems so hard. But one day you're going to look behind you and realize this is the best choice you've ever made. And now I can say, you're right. So from there, I want to work with healthy people, and I went back to do my doctorate in health education because I want to work with stopping the disease before it hits. I want to be a gardener, not a mechanic. I want to prepare and nurture a garden and watch it grow. and take care of it as it grows and sustain it until it blooms. And this morning I picked this from my garden. It's a beautiful amaryllis. I don't know if you can see it. So I thought, well, let's do this health education thing. And I went on the soapbox with doing this nutrition and doing stuff to help improve school nutrition programs and what have you. Then I realized that too wasn't enough for me. It's all very well getting people healthy. It's a big, big task. But being healthy is not enough if you're not happy. Remember last week I said, well, here's a very fit person who's a pain in the neck to be around, and here is a very large person in a wheelchair who's ill, but when he walks in the room, wheels his chair in the room, it's like a ray of sunshine. Who is healthier? So I realized then there's so many different dimensions of health. Physical health, emotional health, intellectual health, occupational health, social health, spiritual health, financial health. I added that too. You know, for a lot of people, lack of money can become a huge unhealthy factor in your life. And so I learned all those things until I jumped off the mountain and launched into this work. Because I realized that until and unless I can put spirit first in the mind-body-spirit paradigm, we are all scratching at the surface. We are all doing symptom management. Even when I walked into hypnotherapy, people doing conventional hypnotherapy practice, they would work on, oh, I'll help you quit smoking, I help you lose weight, I help you do this and that. They're all symptom management sessions, unless you get to the core of what drives you to those behaviors. It was very interesting. Years ago, when I was in academia, I did some work with the Office of Women's Health, working on eating disorders. And we did a lot of work doing research, getting the right material, and organizing and creating educational pieces to help school personnel and parents to work with children with eating disorders. Even then, I didn't know a whole lot. I knew a little bit. I just knew it wasn't right. And I say, eating disorders is not a nutrition problem. Eating disorders is a spiritual problem. Because back in the day, you know, nobody wants to talk about spirituality. It's like, oh my God, she's going to preach to us. I have learned since that spirituality is not about religion. In fact, religious things many times become hindrances to spirituality. Our spirituality is us knowing how we are an integral part of the whole, where we are in the place we are. And I think it's really core for that. If we don't know who we are, it doesn't matter what we do. If we don't know what to say yes to, how are you going to know what to say no to? We do a lot of stuff saying yes to many things we shouldn't say yes to. But we lie to ourselves, because if I told you exactly how I feel, you're not going to like me anymore. In this work that we do, people come to us from all walks of life. Why? My office is the last resort for many of my clients. They've tried everything. They've been to therapy for years. They've seen doctors. They've done this and that. But they have missed out on even scratching the surface of their itch, so to speak. Have you ever felt when you have an itch somewhere, you don't know where to scratch? You know it's there, but you don't know how to alleviate that itch. It's a nasty feeling. And most people come to see people like us is because I don't know what it is. So our clients come to see us and they fill in our elaborate forms and they tell you what their ailments are. It doesn't matter what they are. You can fill in 10 pages. One time my client said, oh gosh, I should be here forever. Look at all my problems. And I said, no, ma'am, it's not necessary. I still see you the same amount of time as I see other clients. He goes, how can that be so? I said, because I have your source code. You can give me 10 more pages. It doesn't matter. I know what's wrong with you. And the one fundamental things we work with is fear. This is a very small idea. Some of you may have read the book Conversations with God. I read that series of books by Neil Walsh many years ago. And it makes a lot of sense to me. In my other class, I talk about Qi is the energy that drives how we feel. Qi is your emotional energy. Emotion means energy in motion. And how we feel define who we are. And there are only two fundamental emotions, fear and love. Everything we feel good about has to come from a place of love. Everything we don't feel good about has to come from a place of fear. And energy is energy. You can't create nor destroy it, so you can transmute it. So if you have a lot of fear in your life, it will paralyze you. People come to me and say, well, I want to have more self-confidence. You have a lot of self-confidence. And the client would say, no, I don't. I'm scared to death to make this speech I have to do next week at work. And I said, you have a lot of self-confidence because you have so much energy invested in believing you cannot do something. Now, all I have to do is help you flip that switch. Turn all that energy into investing that you can do it. You will be doing wonders, right? The whole idea of going inside first, setting your spirit in the right place, the rest will follow. It's a very, very small idea, but yet it makes a big change. Okay, does anybody have a question or a comment?
How specifically do you help somebody find their spiritual peace? By just telling them, you know, to find their cooking or their gardening? Or, I mean, how do you work with them in more depth? Because I have a client right now who's 25 and he's lost, and I have one more session that's paid, but I'm sort of like not quite sure, you know, to help him find his purpose as he's, you know, washing dishes right now.
First thing is to not go too wide, too big, too much into the future. Finding one's bliss is a day by day, step by step, little by little process. Most people say, oh, well, I want to hope for a better future. And I said, abandon the hope, because hope is always something tomorrow that may not happen. Hope is something that you want somebody else to bail you out. So the thing I like to teach my client is not to hope, but to trust. There's a big difference between hoping and trusting. Trusting also requires action now and not action tomorrow. So let's say if this person come to me and he said, oh, I have no purpose in life, all I do is wash dishes. Do you know you can find a lot of joy in washing dishes? I guess that's what they teach in the Buddhist monastery. Every task, every breath matters. We don't have to look for the big bang all the time. What about washing dishes? I personally find washing dishes rather therapeutic. You walk in front of a sink, it's a ghastly mess. When I'm finished, you know, my countertop will shine and all the dishes are clean and orderly, and suddenly I feel a deep sense of satisfaction. Perhaps you can just ask him to pick one task that he currently has to do every day that he feels he can't change. The challenge is the person will say, well, I can't change this. It really sucks. I have to wash all these dishes.
Well, he actually likes washing dishes, but he knows that he has more talent of having gone to school for a year or two, an accountant. So it's helping him get to the bigger picture.
Right. The big question is, be careful. It is not your big picture for him.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So he has to come up with, imagine if you are to expand your joy in washing dishes just a little bit, just make one small change, what would it be? Okay. And in our energy work, you want them to own that feeling. You know, so some people come to me and they say, oh, well, you know, I don't have anything to hope for. My life is a mess, blah, 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 blah. And I say, well, that sucks. First, you can agree with them, because if you argue with them, you're going to waste a lot of time figuring out who's right, who's wrong. And I said, you're right. It doesn't matter what they say. If they say it's great, it's great. If they say it's horrible, it's horrible. Their perception is their truth. So you agree with them and validate them and say, well, if that's how you feel, there must be something to it. Now, looking at what you've got, is there a way to find a silver lining? Because there's always a different perspective. Is your cup half empty or half full? Whatever they say, they're right. And I say, now would you like a third solution? And they'll look at me, it's either half empty or half full. Yeah, you got a third solution. I said, yes, we have more than a third solution. So I would say, I'll just give you the first third solution I know. I said, I would say it's the wrong size cup. That's incredibly empowering. It's a very small idea. Change the cup if you don't like the cup. I have learned in the past, if you don't like the man, you change the man. I did. You know, it's like Mary Poppins. And she says, in every job that must be done, there is an element of fun. You find the fun and snap, the job's a game, right? So you change how you approach the problem and you will find a creative solution if you're looking for it. If you're not looking for it, it doesn't matter. I think we are a sum total of all our life experience. Some people sit in a pile of sand and whine about it. Some people sit in a pile of sand and say, great stuff. You know, like the little boy at Christmas time, 9 little boys, it was an experiment, 9 little boys on Christmas morning, each boy was given a box of Christmas present. When they opened it, everybody had the same thing. It was a box of warm horse manure. All the boys have different reactions. Who would think to give a little boy a box of horse poop? Every other boy was angry, except for one. This little boy opened the box. It was steaming horse poop, and he was so excited. He said, somebody gave me a horse for Christmas. He ran out to the barn to look for his horse. So now you wonder whether there was a horse or not. This kid has a very different perspective. So whose perspective do you want? My mom used to say in a Chinese saying, even if the sky falls on you, which means all hell has broken loose, there is always a soft cloud you can use as a blanket. In Chinese, 天跌落嚟當被冚. Understand my friends from Hong Kong, right? It's like, what an image. You know, now I do a lot of work with metaphors and images. I said, what an image. The whole sky has collapsed upon us. And I have a cloud for a blanket. And I'm jumping with joy. I think it is so important. It is not you think, therefore you are. I truly believe it is how you feel that makes who you are. Because we have a choice to feel. Nobody can correct us on how we feel. We get to choose how we feel. And it is that belief that has underscored my work for the last 16 years, that I have seen miraculous transformations in every one client that has come through my office. And it is not enough to give people hope. In fact, I said, please don't give people hope. What people need is not hope. What people need is to trust in what we already have today within our grasp, that you and I at this moment can do one small thing that will make a big change in the world. Right now, with this crisis going on all over the place, I see on TV, it brings the best in people, brings out the best in people, and it brings out the worst in people. It is clear to see those that are behaving in compassion and kindness and generosity. It must come from a place of love. And those people who are scared, who would go out and beat up on someone who refused to wear a mask or have a warped sense of self-righteousness, to bark at people who are trying to keep you safe, it's got to come from a place of fear. Now, we can't go out and change all the people all of the time. I think in our own world, I believe one small thing, one moment at a time. My goal is if every day I can bring a smile to someone's face, I think my moment, my life is worth it that day. I don't know what it'd be like, how many more days on earth I'm going to have, but it matters that one small thing will make a big difference. You know, I saw a cartoon the other day, is something like, you only live once. Well, it's wrong. You only die once. You live many, many, many times before you die. Unfortunately, many people die many, many times before they live. So one small turn in the sentence can make a big difference. One small change. You can put CAN and then NOT. You take out the NOT, your world will change. You look at the word impossible. Just spread out the I and the M and say, I am possible, instead of saying impossible. One small switch. I think all teachers and mothers and fathers out there, we are all teachers in every role that we play. We are all teachers. We teach ourselves and we teach others. And there is nothing more powerful than teaching by example. So walk the talk you want to talk, and little changes will make huge transformations. I hope this little chat has stirred some emotions in you. And if you feel generous, go out and make one small change in someone's life. Even if it's just helping somebody cross the street, it makes a big difference. And then we know we've all paid forward. Okay, I'm going to switch mode to doing our morning's meditation. As I say, one of your classmates, the master class, has suffered a huge, huge loss, very sudden, very sad, and very tragic. Cindy's grandmother also crossed over. Man, woman, life, death, infinity. We are all right now alive. Who knows what tomorrow brings? The only certainty in life is death. So let's just get over it and accept that it is part of our circle of life. The only thing that's eternal is our spirit. And we know we have spirit because we know each one of us have been touched in our spirit very deeply by someone or other. And we hope we can leave this world with something in our spirit that we can give back. Because you don't have a U-Haul behind your hearse. We have to leave behind. And let's hope that we leave behind footprints that are worth noting. Noting not because we have a big ego that we have to etch our name in the sand, that's irrelevant. But noting because if you're sharing something of life's lessons that will touch somebody's life, that will make a positive difference. That's what we're all about. Okay, so please join me, sit back, and just gently close your eyes. We breathe in all the divine love in the universe. As we clear our consciousness of fear and doubts and negative emotions, we relax our body into our chairs, letting go of all thoughts. Breathe in love, breathe out fear, and imagine a ray of light coming from above, gently touching you, and infusing your consciousness with divine love. And you feel your internal consciousness lighting up, getting brighter and lighter, and pushing out all your fears and all unhealthy energies in your body. We don't need to know what they are. We just need to know we don't want them. And we replace them with peace and love and tranquility. Knowing that we are all part of the universe, we're connected to the universe. Breathe in love, breathe out fear. And imagine the energies of fear and negativity coming out of your body like smoke coming out of your skin. And as that leaves you, you feel more and more at peace with yourself, more and more at peace with yourself. Breathe in love, breathe out fear. And as you feel your own consciousness and you get to a place where you feel tingly in your fingertips, go ahead and wiggle your fingers and send this energy all the way down to your toes and wiggle your toes. And now you expand this light beyond your body and you fill the room and you fill your home and you fill your neighborhood. And you expand further and fill the state and you fill the earth with this light. And now as we join our lights together, we expand further and we wrap the earth with this divine light. And we send this love to all corners of the earth to help those who need it and bless those who need the blessing and help them heal their hearts and heal their spirits and help all those in the front lines who are risking their lives to save those of the others. And send this energy to all the stupid people out there who don't get it, that the only way we can save this world is through love of God, of self, of others. To be kind to ourselves and to be kind to each other. Let's envelop the earth with this love and help push out the fear. Enlighten the stupid people out there and keep safe those who are already enlightened. As we join in this pulse of healthy, peaceful energies throughout the earth. Now we want to hold these two deceased souls in our hearts. We lift them up and we escort them to the bridge so they can cross over to the light where there is no more suffering in their bodies and there's no more hurt and pain in their spirit. They can leave behind now all their burdens and we gently lay them down on the bridge. For we cannot walk over for them, they have to walk over themselves. But we can stand in support and love. And they will know how to receive our love. Now breathe in and out and send them into the light. And now we bring this energy back into our bodies. Feel the energy of love coming back to the top of your head, coming through your body, shining through your entire consciousness. And knowing that you are safe and knowing that you have love. Knowing that all the mothers before us have shared their love with us is in our DNA. And knowing that we will share this with others, whether as a mother or as a father, we can spread this love and this light. For as long as we choose to, for as much as we desire. Take a deep breath. And feel this peace. Note the color. Note the temperature. And note if there's any sound, because this is your peace. No one can take it from you. In a moment, I'll bring your consciousness back into your space. Number one, you feel relaxed and refreshed. Number two, you feel charged with love. When I get to the third number, gently open your eyes, smile, and feel exhilarated, peaceful, and loving. Number 3, take a deep breath, gently open your eyes and stretch. I hope you've benefited something. Thank you for sharing your valuable hour with me, especially on this Mother's Day. Go home and spread the love and do something wonderful for someone else, and also do something wonderful for yourself. Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Happy Mother's Day.
See you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.